Professional Insights brought to you by the National Referral Network. This is where we share insights, wisdom, and a whole bunch of other stuff for the edification of those that are listening and or viewing and or whatever. Today, we're here with Dan Mirgon, who is a business consultant. He specializes in helping businesses prepare themselves for exit, succession, all the things that business owners should want and often don't prepare for. So, Dan, I hope I said that correctly.
Good enough, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So, as we were talking before this, what I was really interested in and somewhat alarmed at is that every business owner seems to want to exit the stage at some point, but hardly anybody is prepared. Why is that?
I think to a certain extent, there's a generational issue with the baby boomers, of which I'm in the middle. We're the people who created the 60-hour work week. We like solving problems, and our main value is success. So by and large, if I don't know what's on the other side of the sale, I'm going to stay here because I'm comfortable.
Okay, so in other words, they're just in their comfort zone and don't know what to do.
Yeah. And so, we have to think about the after action game of what's the final phase of your life. Don't go work for a charity and have them put a broom in your hand. You're used to being the decision maker, right?
So in other words, they spend decades building a business and all of a sudden get to that point in life and go, okay, what now? And you help them figure that out.
Well, I think, yes, I help them figure it out because it's one of three things that has to be figured out. Because the world of selling your business has changed in the last 10 years, particularly.
Wow. And I'm curious, what percentage of businesses that hang up a for sale sign actually sell?
There's two categories. First, about 40 to 50% of businesses sell involuntarily through death, disability, divorce, or some disaster.
Now let's stop on that for a second. So when that happens, what happens to the value of the business?
It goes in the toilet.
Wow.
So you have to have contingency funded plans for a death, a disability, a divorce, whatever. And if you don't, your 80% of your retirement money is tied up in your business in most cases. It's going to evaporate. You're going to get pennies on the dollar.
So they're literally squandering their retirement by not being prepared, by not having some of these contingencies covered.
Yes, and so back to the value of success. It's not you're not a success if you let that happen.
And you talk about working a lot with business owners. That you start with the person at the top. How many business owners are just kind of in their own way when it comes to this?
90% of people don't have a written exit strategy.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Exit strategy. Now let's define exit strategy here a little bit more precisely. In other words, who they're going to sell to, or
I'm going to stop being the owner, operator, manager, chief cheese of this business. And I'm going to transfer that to somebody else, whether that's my employees, my family, my partners, a strategic partner or private equity group, etc. There's about 9 different kind of mountains you could choose to climb to get out of ownership of your business.
Wow. Oh, and could we talk about some of those? Like, what are some of the ways that a business can transition? Let's say you have an owner that's in their 60s, they don't have many more years left on the job. What kind of transition plan might they look at?
46%, according to a recent study, say that they're going to give it to or sell it to their family, or their family's going to take over. And that sounds really good at Thanksgiving dinner until you realize that Junior over here didn't apply himself and learn your business. Okay.
And how tough is it for you when you're working with a business owner to say to someone, I know you want to sell it to your son. He's not the guy.
It's the hardest part of my job, but it's also the important part. I have to go into those engagements with an agreement from the client that I can be nice to you or I can tell you the truth. And I'll tell you the truth in the nicest way, as nice a way as possible, but some of it's going to sting.
Okay.
Your senior VP of marketing is not your best asset. You're going to have to replace him.
Okay.
Your daughter isn't really going to take over for the company. She doesn't want it.
Okay. So in a nutshell, you're helping business owners maximize the value of what they've spent, in some cases, many decades building.
Yes. Yeah. And the reason, obviously, that we start early is because you cannot turn the Titanic in a bathtub overnight.
Mm.
You've been doing things so many years this way, and you think like a seller, rightfully so. But your buyer mentality has to be added to that. And when you see it from that perspective, it changes how you operate your business.
And that's an important point. You're helping businesses. You're looking at it through the lens of somebody who's going to buy it. Okay.
Correct.
Which means the business has to transition towards it being less owner-centric and running, in a sense, without the owner's larger influence. Is that true?
That's one of 4 intangible capitals that have to be strong. I know we'll think about the financial number all the time as the kind of the end all, but they want to know that you're not, like you said, owner-centric. Want to make sure you're not customer-centric. You've got 100 customers and 5 of them are giving you 80% of your business. You got a problem.
Wow, that's a great point. What percentage of businesses do you see are too owner-centric and B, too customer-centric?
A majority are too owner-centric, and roughly 40 to 50% are customer-centric. So the owner-centric issue is the bigger issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, that portends a quality management team doing functional vision fulfillment. And if that's not happening, no buyer's going to want to buy that, because now that you're out of the picture, you just burdened him with a whole bunch of people who can't follow the rules.
And I'm guessing you could prep a business owner to maybe get out of their own way a little bit in a relatively short period of time, but becoming less customer centric, that's a longer haul, isn't it?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, sometimes this takes 3 to 5 years to get the organization from where they say they want to be to where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, go ahead.
No, which means they need to, as you mentioned earlier, they need to start really early. And so if they're thinking about, I don't know, retiring at 65, they need to start at what, 60, 58?
There's a sense in which people in the exit planning industry will say you need to start when you're 40. I think that's a little bit naive. But if you're saying 65 is my ripcord year, but I want to be talking to you when you're 58, 59.
Mm-hmm.
Because the purpose of doing this is not to screw up everything you just built.
Okay.
It's to make sure that on the private equity review table, when there's 10 companies, I want yours standing out so bright that they go, we got to fund that one.
So in other words, these mergers and acquisitions firms that are going to take a look at you and go, okay, we're going to offer you for sale. It's sort of like, which bachelorette gets the rose kind of thing, right? They're looking at all these companies to see which ones they want to go out into the world with. Is that right?
Yes, but it's the other side of that. It's the buyer side. So the private equity or the investment banking firm is going to the mergers and acquisitions person and say, who's the shark, the shining bauble in your bucket right now? Mm-hmm. And they want them to pull you out and show why you're worth the multiple that's bigger than they're thinking of offering.
And you mentioned that most business owners think their businesses are worth a lot more than they actually are.
Yeah, unfortunately, you talk to almost any business broker, and that's the first thing out of their mouth. Wow. Nobody knows what their business really. And it's hearsay. I went to a trade show, and my company does this, and there was a company next to me in the aisle over that does that, and he sold his business for $10 million. Therefore, I should be worth $10 million. Mm-hmm. That's a dream is not a plan. You can't act on a hope, and nobody in the buyer space is going to buy your hope, your dream, or your sweat equity. They want a return on an asset that's going to give them the return on investment worthy of X dollars.
And on the flip side, when you do engage with business owners and you do start down this path, what do they experience in terms of valuation? How much does the valuation begin to climb?
The best way to answer that is we start with what's called a discovery phase, where we go into the 5 main areas: their personal financial wealth plan, their personal wealth goals, the business and its intangibles and its numbers, and we bring in a real evaluation number at that point, so that it's a baseline. We know where we are. And every company, as you might suspect, this is going to sound like a cheesy, I didn't want to get specific answer, but I can't give you a specific metric for growth. But when you work through the numbers and you retest, and we get to a point where we're retesting those numbers every 90 days, within the first year, it's the heavy lifting. It's not going to change a lot. In fact, it may dip.
Okay.
But in the second, third, and fourth year, you're going to start seeing some significant change. And at that point, we get to into a conversation with maybe a mergers and acquisitions firm and say, okay, this is how they're positioned. This is the exit options that they're choosing of the menu. Give us your input, help us refine the final, and get them ready for finding us the funder.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, if a business owner is thinking about, again, succession, selling, what have you, you take them by the hand and say, okay, here are all the things we need to do so that you end up down the road at max valuation. Then you hang out a for sale sign, and then you actually can attract buyers who want to buy you because you're ready to be bought or succeeded or whatever.
Yeah. And so if this sounds sort of self-serving, forgive me, but
oh no,
we have on our website a free assessment for your readiness. It's 20 questions. It takes you 15 minutes. Nobody's going to call you and barrage you about anything other than what you learn. Okay? And it goes into and presents you with the top 12 kind of challenges that you face based on your responses. Wow. It's free. It costs you nothing. You can have that discussion with yourself and go, do I want to take the next step?
And I'm going to see if my producer is there, if he can run that across the bottom of the screen. We'll see if this, yeah, there we go.
Mirgon Consulting, what a guy.
There you go. If you log on there, they will see that they can fill out that questionnaire and just do like this, hey, am I ready kind of thing with the 12 questions.
Yeah, so it'll get emailed to them a couple of days after they produce it. And then my only action from there is, if you'd like, I'll go through it in detail with you. And what happens then is about 60 to 70% of the time, they'll go, yeah, I want to learn more about this. Because it tells them that they're a little more serious than they thought they were.
Right. It's sort of, yeah. I think that's awesome, and I know owners that should do this. Just kind of rattling around in my head here. As we wrap up here, Dan, we know that none of us are islands unto ourselves. We can't be all things to all people, and we need to be working with other people in other areas. How is your membership of the National Referral Network helping you build a team so that you can be better in your business?
It's integral. It's integral. When it says Dan Mirgon and Associates, the associates are a good chunk of the NRN is a good chunk of that associates list. And, okay. and the reason for that is that my job, essentially, the owner is the business owner is the owner and general manager of the team. They hire me as the head coach, and I hire or bring in individual specialists, quarterbacks, to win the individual games we need to win to accomplish winning the Super Bowl for the client.
Wow. That's a
So,
great.
so the National Referral Network gives me a pool of tested, proven people that we're building relationships with that says, okay, this guy's a specialist in this little nuance. I need to bring him into this arena.
Wow. That's great. If you are a business owner and you're looking at this, for crying out loud, you need to talk to Dan. Especially if you are looking at exiting.
He's just saying it, right?
Yes, I just said it. There it is. Dan, thank you very much for giving us some time. This is great information. This is stuff that I think all business owners should pay attention to. So again, you see Dan's website there on the bottom. Log on, fill out the 12 questions, find out what kind of shape you're in. You won't be sorry you did it. And if you're interested in learning more about the National Referral Network, you can log on to nrnamerica.com. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. It appears magically. You can log on to nrnamerica.com and get more information about becoming a network member. Dan, once again, thank you so much. And we will see everyone next week with more professional insights.